and it left my heart in pain. There's a man going round taking names. Oh, death is that man taking names. Oh, death is that man taking names. He has taken my mother's name, and it left my heart in pain. Oh, death is that man taking names. There's a man going round taking names. There's a man going round taking names. He has taken my brother's name, and he's left my heart in pain. Oh, death is that man taking names, taking names. There's a man going
Hello, 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 everybody. Happy Black History Month. I am your host of Black Opera Live, Kenneth Overton, a proud member of the Black Opera Productions team that is producing the upcoming documentary to be released later this year entitled Black Opera. I am so excited to be here with you all today on this first day of Black History Month. Now, anybody who knows me knows that I celebrate Black history, my Blackness, every single day of every single week and month of the year. But since the nation decided that this is our month, I am going to celebrate it to its absolute fullest. And what better way to celebrate it than with one of my most favorite genres in all of music, the Negro Spiritual, and from the choral perspective. What you just heard and saw was a performance of me. That was the first time in 8 months of doing the show that I've ever played a recording of me, because I'm all about showcasing other people and voices and talents. But that was the choir, the Winston-Salem State University Singing Rams, conducted by one of my panelists tonight, the great Maestra Dwala Simmons-Burke. And that was recorded live about 4 years ago, and my dear friend Angela Owens set all of the photos and stuff to make a video out of it. And it's one of the things that I'm most proud of in all of the singing that I have done. One announcement: mark your calendars for February the 21st at 2 p.m. Central Time. That is the date of the Fort Worth Opera Gala, a night of Black excellence, past, present, and future. The new general director, my friend Afton Battle, is putting together a wonderful gala celebrating Black art, Black vocal art. And some of the singers that will be on it are Nicole Heaston Lane, Cameo Hughes, Latanya Moore, Ngwanda Nobles, Karen Slack, Takesha Miche, Kizart Thomas, Darius Thomas, Kevin Thompson, Jarrell Williams, and yours truly. Now, on the 21st, it is a paid event, and it will only be a one-night only affair. I, as an artist, was given 2 complimentary tickets to bring guests to the show. And on my February 15th show, I will have a trivia question, and whoever gets it right will be able to get the 2 tickets to attend the Fort Worth Opera Gala, a night of Black excellence, past, present, and future. So make sure you brush up on your Black Opera Live history, because you might be able to come and see the gala at Fort Worth. I'm so proud of Afton and all the work that she's already done in her new position. But we are here to talk about choral conducting as it pertains to the Negro Spiritual. And I promise you, these are 6 of the finest people to ever pick up a baton, not just in spirituals, but in anything that they put their musical minds and talents to. I'm so honored that they have joined me here tonight. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. All right. Dr. Sean Elise White, soprano, is from Washington, D.C. She holds a Doctor of Musical Arts, DMA, degree in voice performance from the University of Kentucky School of Music, a Master of Music degree in voice performance from the Yale University School of Music, Yale's opera program, and a Bachelor of Music degree in voice performance from the Syracuse University School of Music, College of Visual and Performing Arts. Sean Elise began her career teaching pre-K through 6th grades, general vocal music after college in the District of Columbia Public Schools, and taught private piano lessons as well. She later continued teaching public school through middle and high school, and as a choral director in New Haven, Connecticut, New York City, and Lexington, Kentucky, preparing students for city and statewide choral festivals, instructing acting classes, and teaching music theory as well. Sean Elise has performed in Venice, Italy, Dusseldorf, and Berlin, Germany, and Amsterdam in productions of Porgy and Bess, starring, catch it, starring as Bess in Porgy and Bess. Yes, the one in the red dress. She has also performed roles in operas by Verdi, Puccini, Strauss, and Offenbach, as well as a soprano soloist in Gustav Mahler's Symphony No. 8, the Symphony for 1000, and Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. Additionally, she has toured with the National Broadway musical productions of Ragtime as a swing and Showboat, cover for the role of Queenie. White also won first place in the Eastern Regional Metropolitan Opera Competition and was a finalist in the Mid-Atlantic Regional Metropolitan Opera Competition. Prior to her appointment at Johnson C. Smith University, Sean Elise was visiting instructor of music at Berea College in Berea, Kentucky, and assistant director of choral activities at Kentucky State University in Frankfort, Kentucky. I am so honored and happy that my sister, Dr. Sean Elise White, is here today. Welcome, Sean Elise. I love you. Dr. Lloyd Mallory Jr., a native of Washington, D.C. Lloyd Mallory currently serves as Director of Vocal Choral Activities at Kentucky State University in Frankfort. There's a lot of good stuff going on in Kentucky. You already see a theme, right? And there's some more Kentucky coming your way. Just hold on. Over Mallory's career path, he has built a reputation for conducting great choirs and training the voices within the ensemble. Mallory is the former chairperson and director of the Delaware State University Choirs, Oakwood University Choirs in Huntsville, Alabama, the Lincoln University Choirs in Pennsylvania, and Pine Forge Academy Choir, a boarding academy in Pine Forge, Pennsylvania. His training has produced Sunday's Best 2011 winner, Amber Bullock. Now, Amber can sing. And if Lloyd had his hands on her, he know what he doing. Los Angeles rising vocal coach Steve Mackey, professional singer and background vocalist Nelson Beato of Los Angeles, R&B recording artist and producer Choral King, and several opera and classical Broadway singers. Conducting proteges include Dr. Jason Ferdinand, another panelist here tonight, the current chairperson and director of choral activities at Oakwood University, Dr. Jeremy Winston, the director of music at the Kettering Seventh-day Adventist Church in Ohio, the Theodore Thorpe III at T.C. Williams High School in Virginia, and then Jarrett Rosenborough at Pine Forge Academy in Pennsylvania. Mallory's education includes UCLA, earning a doctorate in musical arts in wind, orchestral, and choral conducting, Morgan State University in Baltimore, earning a Master's of Fine Arts with dual emphasis in conducting and voice, and Oakwood University in Alabama with a Bachelor's of Arts in Music with emphasis in flute and vocal performance. I am honored to have my big brother, Dr. Lloyd Mallory Jr. in the house tonight. Welcome, Lloyd. Dr. Jason Max Ferdinand. I am so excited that he is here tonight. I am such a fan of his work, and we just met virtually through the screen tonight, and I'm so proud of everything that he is doing and has accomplished. He is the director of choral activities, professor and chair of the music department at Oakwood University. He directs the Aeolians of Oakwood University and, as evidenced by noteworthy awards, has distinguished himself on the national and international choral stages. In 2017, he earned the Outstanding Director and Choir of the World. Get it? Not choir of the city, not choir of the state, not choir of the country, but of the world awards at the Llangollen International Musical Festival in Wales. In 2018, his choir won 3 gold medals at the 10th World Choir Games held in South Africa, and also won the competition's overall championship in both the spirituals and university choir categories. He is a published composer with GIA Publications and is exhilarated about his new choral series with Walton Music. In 2018, he was named Teacher of the Year by Oakwood University. The Aeolians made their first appearance at the National Conference of the American Choral Directors Association, better known to us as ACDA, in 2019, and the term "they broke," catch it, they broke ACDA, and was used to describe their outstanding presentation. Teaching with Heart is a new book released by Ferdinand and is a useful choral compendium for all choral directors. Ferdinand holds non-terminal degrees from Oakwood University, Morgan State University, and a doctorate in choral conducting from the University of Maryland. Welcome, Dr. Jason Max Ferdinand, to the show. Welcome, 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 welcome. My good brother, Dr. Brandon Waddles. Brandon, I'm so glad you're here, but you busy. You busy and all over, and I'm honored you carved out some time for me. Brandon's choral compositions and arrangements have been published and performed by choral ensembles around the world, including the Morehouse College and University of Michigan Glee Clubs, the Oakwood Aeolians, the Westminster Choir, the Brigham Young University Singers, and the Slovenian Philharmonic. In 2019, he was awarded as the inaugural recipient of the ACDA Diverse Voices Collaborative Grant. In addition, he has worked as a transcriber of Black gospel music for numerous choral octavos, hymnals, and hymnal supplements published by GIA, including his recent work as a contributing editor for the One Lord, One Faith, One Baptism hymnal. Brandon recently released Just in Case You've Forgotten, the first selected compendium of works by the late Thomas Whitfield, the subject of his dissertation. Brandon has been blessed to work with a diverse array of musicians, including Dalton Baldwin, Martin Katz, Angela Brown, George Shirley, Donnie Ray Albert, Vincent Cole, Fred Hammond, Kathy Taylor, Anita Wilson, and Crystal Rucker. Recently serving as music director for Grammy-nominated recording artist Ledisi. Now, Ledisi is one of my favorite voices on this planet. I mean, that voice is limitless. She can do anything she wants with that voice. He has collaborated with the celebrated singer on multiple occasions, including her Nina and Me concert series and Ledisi, The Legend of a Little Girl Blue, show run at the Wallace Annenberg Center for the Performing Arts. Dr. Waddles holds professional memberships with the American Choral Directors Association and the National Association of Negro Musicians Incorporated. Listen, this is an esteemed panel. Maestra Dwala Simmons-Burke, my love, is the Director of Choral and Vocal Studies and founder of 3 of the 5 choral ensembles currently existing within the Department of Music at Winston-Salem State University. The Winston-Salem State University Singing Divas, Complesso Voce, and the renowned Burke Singers. The 4th choral ensemble is the Grammy-nominated Winston-Salem State University Choir, better known to us as the WSSU Singing Rams. I know them as my nieces and nephews. I just adore those young people. Her choirs have performed with local and regional and world symphony orchestras and is well sought after for its performances of master choral works, social justice, spirituals, and world musics. Her ensembles have also performed on national stages such as Carnegie Hall and the Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts. Maestra Simmons-Burke has also performed internationally with her choral ensembles and as a guest conductor and lecturer in Prague, the Czech Republic, Nassau, Bahamas, Accra, Cape Coast, and Kumasi, Ghana, West Africa, and Pilanesberg in Cape Town and Johannesburg, South Africa. She was named one of the national conductors for the 105 Voices of History concert choir at the John F. Kennedy Performing Arts Center and in Nassau, Bahamas. Simmons-Burke was also the national choral coordinator and one of 3 national conductors who lead the 105 Voices of History concert choir in their inaugural performance at the Grand Ole Opry. I love me some Maestra Simmons-Burke, and I am so glad she is here. I love you, my dear. Love, 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 love you. And last but certainly not least, Dr. Everett McCorvey, the man, one of my mentors, big brother, uncle, father figure, like musical mentor, like he means the world to me. And I'm trying to be just like him. I just hope I have enough energy because this man has 25 jobs and he does them all brilliantly. I don't know how he does it. Maybe he'll share the secret tonight. Dr. McCorvey is an American classical tenor, teacher, impresario, conductor, and producer living in Lexington, Kentucky, where he holds an endowed chair in opera studies at the University of Kentucky and is the director of the University of Kentucky's Opera Theater and professor of voice. He is also the founder and conductor of the American Spiritual Ensemble. He is the artistic director of the National Choral and president of Global Creative Connections, a production company producing live, public, and private events. He has also been on faculty at the American Institute of Musical Studies in Graz, Austria, better known to most singers as Ames, at the Opera Theater of St. Louis, and the Bayview Music Festival in Bayview, Michigan. His students have won numerous national and international singing competitions and regularly perform at leading houses throughout the world. Dr. McCorvey is a native of Montgomery, Alabama, received his degrees from the University of Alabama, including a doctorate of musical arts. He founded the American Spiritual Ensemble in 1995, a group of classically trained singers that tours nationally and internationally performing American spirituals. Since 2014, Dr. McCorvey has been artistic director and principal conductor of the National Choral of New York City, a symphonic choir which performs the great choral titans of the choral literature at Lincoln Center at the wonderful David Geffen Hall, formerly known as Avery Fisher Hall. Dr. McCorvey has sung with the Metropolitan Opera in New York, at the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C., and at other houses in the United States and abroad. He performs regularly as a soloist with his wife, my dear, my love, Alicia Helm. Hi, Alicia. And has been a guest conductor for orchestras and vocal groups throughout the United States and in other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, the company I keep is great. These 6 brilliant people that you are about to meet are some of the finest musicians that the world has ever seen. So please welcome my guest, everyone, to the show. Hello, everybody. Oh my God. There's so much going on. You can unmute your mics briefly, and I'm going to try and put up some comments because the comments are flooding in. Wow. Yeah, there's a lot of love coming at y'all. My goodness. Hey, Dr. Lori Hicks. Lori Hicks was one of my guests last week. Bruce, how are you, sir? My goodness. Kentucky. And there was a theme. There was a lot of Kentucky. There was a lot of Aeolians. There was a Morgan State University. There was, a lot of that going on. And I want to figure out why the legacy of folk singing, choral singing in particular, is found in those cities and states. So let's get started and let the audience get to know you a little bit. So if you would mute your mic, everybody but Dr. Shawn Elise White. My dear Shawn Elise, will you tell us, my dear, where you're from, how you got started in music, and how did all of this come into your life?
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Kenny, so much for inviting me to your show. I'm from Washington, D.C., born and raised. Started off with ballet and piano, and a super in Podium bass with my mom. Shout out to my mom. And went to Duke Ellington School of the Arts, where I majored in piano. I started off in piano first and received a piano scholarship to go to Syracuse. And while at Syracuse, it was recommended that I change my major to voice, so I did. And afterwards, I taught in the public school system. After Syracuse, I came back home and taught in the public school system, general music. I taught private lessons. And then I decided to take voice back on track, and I attended Yale School of Music and the Yale Opera Program, which was a wonderful experience. Wonderful. Yeah. We did lots of great things, as you well know. And afterwards, it was a little tricky because I thought, well, what am I going to do? What can I do? And I was while teaching, because we all have to keep a full-time job. So I was teaching voice. I was in the public schools, grades 6 through 12, teaching theory, teaching piano, conducting choirs. But then I auditioned for a Broadway show. And I initially got Showboat, which was totally exciting. So I packed up everything and just said, I'm going to be on Broadway. And I did that for a while. I was a Queenie cover. Never got a chance to do Queenie, but that's okay. I had so much fun. And then the show closed. And I thought, what do I do next? Then I got a call to go be a swing in ragtime. I thought, a swing, what do they do? Well, I didn't know they did everything. So they sing, they dance. And so I had a blast. Then I finally moved to Kentucky. My mother said, there's a teacher there by the name of Dr. Everett McCorvey. And I said, well, who is he? I don't know anything about him. Well, little did I know, Dr. McCorvey is amazing, simply amazing. And he was my voice teacher at the University of Kentucky. And it was a fabulous experience, because not only did I get to study with him, I then auditioned for Porgy and Bess in the summer, and just for the chorus. And when I walked in, everybody that was there was in the same production that I was in when I was a super, when I was like 5 or 6 years old. Yeah. And they said, are you Buck's daughter? And I said, yes, I am. And they said, oh, wow. So I got a chance to go to Dusseldorf, Germany, Venice, Italy, and do the role of Bess, which was amazing. Still studying though at the University of Kentucky. And after completing my doctorate, I went back to Kentucky State. And that was
Yeah.
the link with Kentucky State because my mother was the chair of Division of Fine Arts at Kentucky State. And the choir director, Dr. Carl Smith, who had been there forever, unfortunately had gotten sick. And so they asked me to come in to be his assistant, which was an amazing, amazing experience. It taught me everything of what I'm doing now as associate professor, director of choral activities, and university soloist at Johnson C. Smith University.
Fantastic.
There you have it.
Fantastic. Dr. Brandon, will you fill us in, sir? Where you from and how did all this music come into your life?
I'm sorry, I'm in here charging my AirPods technology as it is. It is so wonderful to be here with you all. I come from Detroit, Michigan, and grew up surrounded by music. And my father is a classically trained pianist and a little bit of everything else, just 10 times better than me. And so I just ran around with him. And I'm so grateful. I kind of move away from the whole conductor term now. I just call people efficient communicators. We might get into that conversation about, this whole conductor director thing. But I'm so grateful for the people that I witnessed that were communicating music, choral music, from my church home to Jimmy J.D. Dowell at St. James and Michael Fletcher, who been directing the Michael Fletcher Choral and the Whitfield Company. So that's what I grew up with in Detroit. I'm so grateful for a number of names and personalities that have been so dear to me growing up in Detroit. Dr. Brazil Denard, late Dr. Brazil Denard, was one of my first mentors. Of course, my mother, Nina Scott, who was my choral director at Renaissance High School, who introduced me to so many different things, including National Association of Negro Musicians, which I have been a member of since high school. And that is where I met two of my next mentors. I'm so grateful for Dr. Yuzi Brown, who was my voice teacher and composition mentor. And of course, Dr. David Edward Morrow at Morehouse College, where I was fortunate to get my bachelor's, which is where I started writing. And I'm so grateful to them. I've seen my boy Jay Quinn. I'm so grateful to them for inspiring me. Another Morehouse man, my mentor, Dr. James Abington, who was also in Detroit at the time at Hartford. So a number of names. I got to Westminster and worked on my master's in vocal performance and pedagogy, and studied with Metropolitan Opera soprano Sharon Sweet.
Wow.
I know, La Divina. And but that's where I really started to gain even more of a passion for Black sacred music. It's been all around me, but I guess in terms of research and arranging, I'm so grateful to Dr. Joe Miller and Dr. James Jordan and Dr. Amanda Quist, who were at Westminster when I was a student and encouraged me to write more for GIA with their respective series. I went on to conduct the Westminster Jubilee Singers, and I'm so grateful for other of my mentors, Donald Dumpson, Dr. Donald Dumpson.
He was one of my high school choral teachers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was, of course, the founder of the Westminster Jubilee Singers, and I cannot speak on them without bringing him up in his wonderful tutelage. So I was there for about 3 years. I had met officially Dr. Andre Thomas, another great name in my life. And he told me at my very first national ACDA, he said, "You're going to Florida State and there's nothing more you can say about it." And everybody knows what Andre Thomas says is what goes. And so I'm so grateful to have served there and studied there, working on my doctorate. And he was so supportive of me, and especially in my research on Thomas Whitfield, another name from Detroit, who is one of the progenitors of contemporary gospel, which is one of my research studies focuses. After Florida State, I was so grateful to kind of reconnect with Letticy and served as her music director. She was then at that time looking to branch out and working in tribute to Nina Simone, the great Nina Simone. And we did a number of shows with her. And it's interestingly enough, just around the time that things shut down, we were on tour with Gregory Porter. and came back from that first half of the tour, and I was back in Detroit, and I'm so grateful to Dr. Nora Duncan at Wayne State, who is the chair of the Department of Music at Wayne State, for reaching out to me and saying, we need somebody who's kind of had your all-around zigzag career.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've just been a little bit of everywhere, and it's wonderful not to fit in places, because that means you get to do everything.
Right.
And so I'm so grateful to be able to bring that level of education to Wayne State. In fact, Lettucey is coming to join us on Wednesday for a virtual stream session with my choir. So that's a little bit of my story. Yep.
Wow, that's amazing, amazing, amazing. Dr. Jason Max Ferdinand, will you tell us, sir, who you are, where you come from, and how did all this music come into your life, sir?
Hey, what's up, everyone? First of all, I just hope that everyone is safe and warm and doing well wherever you may be. And Kenneth, before I talk about myself, I have to tell you that I made some time today to check out some of your previous episodes.
Yes, sir.
And you ought to be commended for taking the initiative in bringing excellence, black excellence, melanated excellence, and curating it in such ebullient and enthusiastic way. So kudos to you, my friend.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
About myself, I've been not to give anyone or my students in particular a kind of belied impression of my journey. I always like to start at this point, at the point of my grandparents. Both my paternal and maternal sides of the family, they each have 14 children apiece.
Wow.
So as you can imagine, resources as we measure them today were slim, but love and hard work ethic and determination, fortitude, resilience, and determination was so bountiful. So working the fields and working in the oil fields, that's where the bread and butter was made. But I was born in the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the land of soca and calypso and steel pan and carnival, all of which we will miss this year because we can't have carnival due to COVID. But the first few years of my life I spent here in the United States as my parents pursued their schooling. But I was primarily raised in Trinidad and Tobago. Both my parents are now retired educators, and I believe they're looking on. Hey, Mom and Dad. And my dad spent many years as a university administrator, a university president, and my mom was my elementary teacher twice.
Wow.
And then she moved on to teach at the university level as well. So education always gave my sisters and I this parallel realization that we can use our minds as a tool to progress through life. I'm the eldest of three siblings and immensely proud of my sisters as well. So my early education more so was in the British system, a system, in my opinion, that has its pros and its cons. And I would say it's a more what's that word? Dour system, D-O-U-R. It's very, very strenuous, and it kind of forces you to choose your life's vocation earlier than the American system. So I did my O levels, the ordinary exams, which is a British term, O levels, in biology and chemistry and those sort of things, and then moved on. I was selected to do the advanced levels, where you choose 3 subjects and general paper. So I was actually doing biology, chemistry, physics, and general paper. General paper, you write about your world issues and that sort of thing. So the goal for me was to go into medicine or physical therapy. But all along this journey, I was always doing music, and I can't recall a time when I was not doing music. I was either in children's choir or playing the piano or in orchestra or singing in a small group or something. So as a teenager, we formed our own choirs, and I was selected to wave in front of them. Notice I use the word wave and not conduct, because I had no clue what I was doing. But there came a point in my life when I can remember that night vividly. It was a very, very scary night for me. And it wasn't scary because there was a hurricane hovering over the island or anything, but I just felt like my life's work was in the balance. And coming from Trinidad and Tobago, where doing classical music or music of a Western type culture was not a thing at all. I mean, you had to be in soca or calypso or something. And I was so afraid to tell my parents this that I wrote them a letter and I put it in a place where they could see it. So the very next morning, my parents said, Jason, we got your letter. And fortunately for me, because this is not the case in many instances, fortunately for me, my parents have always been strong advocates for supporting their children in what they wanted to study. And so at that juncture, my dad said, okay, well, we'll have to send you up to Oakwood. And there at Oakwood, Dr. Lloyd Mallory, who's on this panel tonight, served as mentor, teacher to this young undergraduate student. And his artistry then and now was a joy to behold. And we all knew of his mastery of nuance and vocal production. And I just kind of soaked everything in. And then I moved from there to Dr. Nathan Mitchell Carter, who in 2 years probably gave me a decade's worth of inspiration and instruction. And he was a strong disciplinarian, as we all know, but it was always bathed in love and in care. And Dr. Carter, we think about him all the time. I did some teaching at that point at Pine Forge Academy, and I got to another point where I felt like I was plateauing. And I got into the University of Maryland, which is a whole another long story, which you want to get into. But Dr. Ed McClary, a protege of Robert Shaw, took me under his wing. And Dr. McClary, with his meticulous lecturing and detailed rehearsal plans, and his mastery at preparing choruses, which I think is a real specialty. He's a genius at that for Helmut Rilling and the likes. I think really helped prepare me for the spheres of university teaching. And then, you hate to start calling names because you get in trouble, but I'm just so thankful for people like, Bruce Rogers and Joe Michael Scheibe, and as Brandon mentioned, Dr. Andre Thomas and Eric Nelson and James Jordan. The list goes on and on and on. James Abington. And I've been here for 13 years at Oakwood University, just trying to carry on the strong heritage and legacy that was laid well before I came, and so that's what I've been doing these days. So that's cliff note version of my journey.
Yeah, it's interesting because last week I had a panel of female doctors that are also divas, and there's so much great singing that comes out of Oakwood. What do y'all do down there to those children that make them come out? Because all of my friends that graduated from Oakwood, they can sing.
Yeah, so if I could tell you exactly, I would. It's just a special place. And it's something that I would never take for granted. That Oakwood doesn't do any serious recruiting in the way that other schools do. It is a small liberal arts school, and I'm just amazed at what walks through the door year after year. You really just can't explain it.
Amazing. Dr. McCorvey next on my screen. It's so great to see your face. And, normally we would be in the throes of our winter tour, and I'm so sad about it. But I'm glad to see that you are well and on my screen, and I can actually talk to you because you're one of the busiest men in the world. So tell us all about Everett. Where'd you grow up, and how did music and this music come into your life?
Well, first, thank you for having me. This has just wonderful to hear all of the stories of everybody and to be on this panel. So I feel very honored and very proud of what everybody is doing. I started my musical journey very early as a child growing up in Montgomery, Alabama. I grew up doing the civil rights movement in Montgomery, and we used to house young men who went to Alabama State. At the time, it was called Alabama State Teachers College, but now it's Alabama State University. But we used to house young men. So we housed 6 young men in our home who went to school at Alabama State. And it was part of my father's, my father really wanted to try to help the community. And that was one of the ways he thought he could serve. And so one of the young men played the trumpet, and he was in the band and he played the trumpet, and I heard him play the trumpet. I was in the 2nd grade. And I thought it was the sweetest music I had ever heard in my life. And so I asked my dad, I said, Dad, I want to learn how to play the trumpet. And so my dad said, okay. And he took me down to the local arts music shop in Montgomery. Arts music is still there. And we rented a trumpet. And so I came home and he said, well, son, would you like some lessons? And I said, yes. So Booker T. Washington High School was a block away from my house. And the band director's name was Mr. Ellis. I will never forget. And my dad went up there and arranged with Mr. Ellis for me to have a trumpet lesson. And I went up to take my first trumpet lesson with Mr. Ellis on a Monday. And it was a life-changing experience for both of us, because after that trumpet lesson, I knew that being in music was what I wanted to do more than anything else in the world. And for Mr. Ellis, it was a life-changing experience for him, because that evening he died. And so,
Oh no.
so
Oh
you
my
know,
goodness.
I was totally freaked out. I thought, oh no, I have killed him with my trumpet playing. And so, I was in the third grade, actually in the second grade. And so it was a horrific experience, but my dad was so great. He took me through the whole burial process, and I saw Mr. Ellis all lined up in his casket, and, he was looking good. And my dad said, well, son, would you like to have me to help you find another trumpet teacher? And I was like, no, Dad, I don't want, I'll just teach myself. And so, so I taught myself how to play trumpet and joined the band. And so I was one of the band. I think I was the only, there were two elementary school kids in the high school band. And so we performed in the band and had a wonderful time and a wonderful experience. And I knew that being in music was what I wanted to do. So I played in the band throughout my high school and my first year of college. And then I was introduced to singing. I sang in my choir at church. And but then I went on to be a voice major at the University of Alabama, and luckily had a wonderful voice teacher, Everett White, who put me on a wonderful path of singing. And then after college, after my master's degree, I did a bachelor's and master's there, then moved to New York and freelanced. And that's where I got to work with Sean Elise's mom, Dr. Barbara Buck, and we had a wonderful time. We were both in the Radio City Music Hall production of Porgy and Bess, and also in the Metropolitan Opera production of Porgy and Bess, and just had a tremendous time there. But something happened during those times in New York as I was freelancing and working. Every time they would have a vote for the AGMA rep, I was always one of the ones being elected. And I kept thinking, is there something on my back that says, elect me the AGMA rep? I didn't know what that was. But I think what people were noticing is that I had a great interest in all things music, not just what was happening on stage, but what was happening behind the stage and what was happening with artists, because I felt like, in a way, we were sort of inhibited in what we could do, because we didn't know the whole scene. We were not aware of what the agents were doing. We were not aware of what the casting directors were doing. We were not aware of what the producers were doing. And I was always very interested in that. And so I started working not only on stage, but also behind the stage as well, and gained great interest in that. And so I taught for 1 year. Well, I went back to the University of Alabama and completed my doctorate. And then for 2 years, I taught at Knoxville College in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I followed the great Nathan Carter and from Knoxville. And I have to tell you that those were huge, huge, huge shoes to fill. And but it was a wonderful experience at Knoxville College. And then I moved to the University of Kentucky. And so I am in the midst of my 29th year at UK.
Wow.
And yeah, it's been amazing. And so, but one of the things I love about being here is it's a very supportive environment, a supportive university, a supportive community for the arts. And I have a lot of interest in conducting, in producing. And, you know, the university has been very supportive in allowing me to really just spread my wings and do everything that I'm doing. And so I was very interested in figuring out how to bring some of the best and the brightest of the vocal performers in this country to UK. And so I'm very proud of what we have done there in terms of creating a diverse program at UK. I watched the show last week, Kenny, and I was so proud of all of my UK grads who were on the show, and all of the, and you see today there's a big Kentucky contingency. And we hope to continue that, and so that people will have a place that they can go and develop and really reach their heights. And so I've been very excited about that. I founded the American Spiritual Ensemble in 1995. And I have to say that after I founded, I was up in New York one time, and I was at what was the name of the opera that you were singing in, Kenny?
Oh, it's
Harriet Tubman. And I heard this baritone sing, and I was like, okay, I've got to get him in the American Spiritual Ensemble. And how many years? I think it was 3 or 5 years before I could get you, because you were so busy. And
now I'm 16 years in. Who'd have thought?
16 years. Praise the Lord.
Yes,
yeah.
Indeed.
And but I will never forget that voice. And so that was a really wonderful experience. And the American Spiritual Ensemble now has over 125 singers, and we get to travel all around the world. And Sean, Elise, we were at Syracuse University when the world shut down last year. And so that was our last concert, was at Syracuse. And what a wonderful university and a great environment there.
Yeah.
And but, you know, it's been great. I've been with the artistic director of the National Choral for 6 years. And I'm very excited about that, because it gives me the opportunity to be able to engage a diverse group of artists to perform at the highest level, to perform at Lincoln Center. And so that's been very exciting for me. And then I get to produce lots of shows. So it's really a wonderful life. I mean, I feel very honored, and just feel honored to be with all of you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Doc. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My love, my maestra, my Dwala, how are you, my love? I'm so happy to see you, and I'm so glad that you're doing well, and you're always gorgeous. Every time I see you, just gorgeous. Will you please tell the folks a little bit about you and where you're from and how you got involved in all of this music?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kenneth, for inviting me. I've watched just about all of your shows. Last week was incredible. The week before that was just fantabulous, and so on and so forth. Yes, you do have some trending things that people are expecting you to say in every show. So be careful there.
Oh, right.
But I am from Georgia. I am from Fort Valley, Georgia. And my mom was a teacher, a mathematics teacher there. And my father was in the military and retired, and became a person that had his own businesses in several areas. But we grew up in a college town. There was Fort Valley State College at the time, Fort Valley State University now. So really, I almost like practically grew up on that campus there. And in these small towns of educators, everybody was almost just about a teacher. And we were in and out of so many people's houses or homes. And it was pretty much par for the course for everybody to take piano lessons. Everybody I ran around with, I was taking piano lessons. I was either taking piano lessons or I was playing sports. I was a basketball player.
Okay.
And I didn't have a choice. I had 2 brothers. So, I had to do what they wanted to do most of the time. But it wasn't a choice, actually, in my home. My parents said, if you were going to breathe their air, you were going to take some kind of music lessons. Now, the choice of what else other than piano was yours? So the common thread there was piano. You have to take piano until you went to college or until you left their home. And then you got an opportunity to do something else. So my other choice was voice. My oldest brother was organ, and my youngest brother was trumpet. And so we were able to have wonderful professors at Fort Valley State, where I studied privately with voice. And we also had my first experience in choral music was actually in the church, as most of us have had that experience. I began conducting and probably waving my hands, making sure everybody was starting on time and ending at the same time in church. When I was a teenager, I was the conductor of the youth choir. And each student of the piano teacher in our town at that time had an opportunity that were members of our church to play for Sunday school. So you were putting those skills right in play there. After that, my mom told me right before it was time to start thinking about college, she said, I really want you to sound like Jasmine Dawson, who was a beautiful soprano in our church. And her mother was my first grade teacher. Her mother was the one that pulled out everybody's teeth when they were loose. You sent them to Mrs. Dawson's classroom. But Jasmine was the idol that everybody wanted to be like if you wanted to be an opera singer. And so I listened every time. And each Sunday morning, I sang a solo. Each Sunday morning, I sang the same solo. And that was His Eye is on the Sparrow. Now, and it was because my mother was suggesting that. But I told her, I said, Mom, everybody doesn't want to hear this all of the time. And she says, let me tell you, until they tell you they don't want to hear it, you will sing His Eye is on the Sparrow. And she would critique me when I got home to say what things I needed to improve on, what I needed to do better. But it was time for me to make a choice and a decision about college. Since we were a college town, oftentimes college choirs came through there on their spring tours. But more importantly, I had already decided when my oldest brother's godparents, the Bryants, would come and sit and talk to him about who they thought or what they thought was the best institution in the entire world, and that was Hampton Institute. And they talked and talked and talked, and I got to sit in the corner, and they weren't my godparents, they were his godparents, and they talked until they were blue in the face. He was determined that's not where I want to go, but I would say, I'll go, because see, they were going to pay for it. Mm-hmm. So I said, I'll go, but they didn't pay me any attention then, but it was only afterwards. I had been introduced to Hampton actually through our grandmother, who is Edmonia Simmons. And Edmonia Simmons was actually the private piano instructor of Roland M. Carter.
Yes.
And his high school choral director. So during the summers, I would go to Chattanooga, Tennessee. That's where my mother was born. And we didn't get to play all of the time like most of the children until I had to have private lessons for 2 hours under Edmonia. And then I could go out if I met her approval. And so I heard, before I even knew who he was, I heard, if you don't practice more than this, you will not be anywhere like Roland Carter. And so after those summers, I would ask my mom, who is this? And she said, you will know very soon. He had just returned from a sabbatical when I came to Hampton. And so I did get to spend my formative years in college under Dr. Roland marvelous, we called him Carter, Dr. Roland Carter. And I'm going to tell you, every day sitting in front of him was like, one day was like learning something for 10 years. My head would almost explode after every rehearsal. He was a master at running a rehearsal and being historical about everything that he wanted you to know about and sing. And so his technique of teaching was something to be admired. As a result of being under Dr. Carter, we got to meet a lot of people that were his friends and colleagues that I then began to ask if you would also mentor me. Naming number one was Nathan Carter. Then here again, we have Brazil Denard. So there's this thread still running, through these friends here on this platform. And so we got to travel and meet these people and be with these people. And they would drop these nuggets. If they thought you were serious about this art form, they would drop these nuggets to you and say, and give you their personal telephone numbers and say, call me whenever you would like to. So I've been able to, over many years, been able to reach out to some of these people and be encouraged by them. I left after Hampton. I then went to the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign, where I studied with Dodi Paterno, who flew in from New York during the week. And then my coach was Uncle Bill, William Warfield. So I got the bachelor's degree in music education, and that was what I was continuing at the University of Illinois. However, during my audition, Uncle Bill was at the audition, and of course you had to have an area of concentration. And he said, I don't care what degree you get, but you're going to study with me. So do you understand that? And I said, yes. And so the privilege to be able to go to his home on Sunday, he would cook for all of the students of color. And I think the most enticing thing about that was being able to meet the folks that I thought I would never, ever meet in my life, like Leontine Price, who was just sitting in his living room. I just stood cold.
I'd have passed out.
I did. And we got to hear the love stories about Uncle Bill and Leontine and how he fixed her hair and all of that kind of stuff. But the best thing was that man could cook. He could cook. His potato salad was a whole meal.
And you can't eat everybody's potato salad. So that's saying something.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I would confess, my folks know I only eat mine and Uncle Bill's. And he's no longer with us, so I only eat mine. Yeah, that's a personal thing. That is a personal thing. But then after that, I did get a teaching position in the public schools and went back to Georgia and taught elementary school. And then my teaching career then went on to Voorhees College, which is an Episcopal church supported school. And I was there for 3 years, and then fell in love with where I am now at Winston-Salem State University, where it is the home of the Ramilleys.
Yeah.
And I've been there now for 31 years.
What? My goodness. And it hurts my heart because I went to school up the street from you and had no idea you were there. I was at North Carolina School of the Arts, not but a couple of blocks from you.
Isn't that something? But in all of that, and all of the time that I've been at Winston-Salem State University, I have been blessed and been fortunate enough to meet people like you. I think one day I was leaving and up the street was walking Sam McKelton, with you, and said, you must meet this young man, and Dwala, you just really need to have him to pour into your students. And that's what I love about my musical friends, is being able to extend yourselves to the students, because most of the times composers, singers, and all, if I'm saying if we're teaching your music, there's an assumption that this is a dead composer. And so it is always good to be able to be connected to some of these wonderful people. And when we are working on something, clinicking, I will oftentimes take my cell phone and say, if I can get a piece to a certain point, and I'll make a phone call and I'll say, so-and-so, how do you like this? And we'll sing it. And the kids will almost just fall out of their seats because they say, you know them? And I say, yes. And so, it gives them this sense of pride because they know it might happen any minute. It gives them this sense of pride that they can be able to approach people such as you that we have on this platform. That's something that I gained from Dr. Carter, who is one of my biggest mentors, and another one who's on this show tonight, Dr. Everett McCorvey. The first time I ever heard the American Spiritual Ensemble was at the North Carolina Music Educators Association, the conference. And I read the bio of the group and I said, everybody's an opera singer. I've got to hear this, because I'll admit, I thought, Dr. McCorvey, I thought this was either going to be the greatest thing or the greatest disaster, because everybody's voice was going to come through. I sat there with my mouth open the entire performance, and I did get a chance to, and I don't think he even remembers this, but I told him, I said, Dr. McCorvey, and this was years ago, maybe about 20 years ago it may have been.
Yeah, it sure was.
I said, Dr. McCorvey, whenever I retire, I'm singing in your choir.
I hope it's before you retire. And listen, all you got to do is sit in a rehearsal with him, and you know why we get that sound, because he's a taskmaster.
Oh, gosh. I've been a part of his rehearsal. We've been fortunate enough, the Singing Rams, to sing with the American Spiritual Ensemble with a research project first that we did. The colleague of mine, David Tang in Charlotte, called Singing Black and White. And then you all came to High Point University a few years back, and we were able to perform with that group there. But what I will say is that in my career of conducting has been a lot of people that have been right in the forefront, pushing me and saying, this is a gift, and it has to be. I'm telling you, I tell my students all of the time, it has to be a calling for you to do this, because you're not going to get rich doing it. And so you better believe you must have the love and desire to teach, number one, because that's what you're doing as a conductor. You're teaching every day. To teach and to inspire and to pour into young people who are then going to be able to do everything. The majority, and most of you all probably will be able to say that, the majority of the students that are in the Singing Rams are not music majors. They are not music majors. They are just music consumers and lovers. And that's all you have to be, really. And just be an open vessel for us to pour into you. And I learned as much from my students as probably they learned from me. But that's my background, an upbringing in the music world, and this is forever evolving. My last time conducting live was as a co-conductor at the ACDA Southern with the initial combined mass choir, HBCU choir. And so it was the first time that ACDA thought to pull this group together, and it's moving throughout this organization now. This very same thing will be done at the Southwest Conference and or division in a couple of years, and so we're excited about that. Oftentimes adjudicating festivals and competitions. So it does, these doors open wide for you to have many opportunities, and many opportunities to meet wonderful people like this platform here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's always so good to see you, my love. Dr. Lloyd, where you at, sir? Tell the folks all about you, where you're from, and how you get involved in all of this, good sir. It's really great to see you.
It's an honor to be with such distinguished, beautiful people, and thank you, Kenneth, for the invitation. I will say my journey is like full circles. And then I will also say that I feel now that I've probably been more or less called to this journey, like ministers are called to what they do, or doctors are called to what they do. My great-grandparents from Louisiana played in the Dixie bands back then, several instruments. Then he got converted and became a minister, and that he stopped that. And in that, only religious music at that point. My grandmother was a pianist, and she played in all of Northern Virginia, and she was very renowned for playing at various churches. My grandfather played jazz, and he would play, he was an orderly, but he would play in Charlottesville, Virginia for his patients, kind of like music therapy, I guess. Mm-hmm. And my immediate parents are not necessarily musicians, but they can carry a tune, and they have sung. Now, my mother has not sung in one of my choirs, and I put my father out because he would not obey. And so in that, that ended that. But my beginnings, I started around 11 years old playing for church. But I also had a physical disability that I have what we call bone spurs in every long bone of my body. And some of them were going to create serious injury or paralysis. And so I've had like 8 reconstructive surgeries between 5th grade and 12th grade. But the majority of them were before I got to 10th grade. So there were a lot of times I couldn't be in school or I couldn't play. And so I did music. Music was therapy. So I would get books and teach myself how to play. If I didn't have the instrument, I would pretend. And so I got a stick and put all the notes for the flute and pretended that. I got a trumpet and pretended to do that. I got I just pretend, and I would get symphonies and I would play like I'm playing with that, blah, blah, blah. But my desire was to be orchestral or band director. And so I played in the band, and I liked that so much that that was how I wanted to train. My parents then moved from Washington, D.C., where I'm from, and we moved to Delaware, where there was nothing big culturally, but we were at a small church. And so I started playing there. My dad made me learn how to read music. He would sit and read whatever he's doing, and he would tell me, you slow down there, although he doesn't read music, but I'm thinking he does, because if I hesitated at all, he would say, you need to start that again, because that wasn't right. Later, I learned he can't play or he doesn't read music, so he fooled me on that, but he did not want me to be a musician that just strictly played by ear. So I had to learn how to read music, and so I learned to play Bach chorales and all of that. Mm-hmm. Which then gave me opportunities to play for revivals and play for singers that are older than me. So I'm 11, 12, 13-year-olds playing for people that are 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60 years old. So I had to really mature and learn how to accompany who I'm playing for. I played in the band up until I went to Pine Forge Academy, and I had to change directions because I was a brass player. So I played trombone and tuba. When I went to Pine Forge, I had to change that because they didn't have a band. They had a wind ensemble. So that's when I picked up the flute. Also, they got a new choir director when I went to Pine Forge Academy. Her name is Gwendolyn Winston Foster, who is from Kentucky. She was the choir director along with her husband, Alan Foster, who was an organist, and they were renowned in the Philadelphia area. He played at Penn Memorial, and she was at Ebenezer, Seventh-day Adventist Church. So they were our choir directors. So whenever they could not make a performance, hands were laid on me suddenly to either direct or to play. And so in that, I got experience directing choirs while I'm in high school, that I would have to prepare the choir. I would have to rehearse the choir, 8-part division. I didn't consider myself really a singer because I was going to be an instrumental conductor, and I played the piano. So I could carry a tune, but my thing was I played on the piano and ding, 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 you got to get it. So I'm really not studying voice or anything like that until I go to Oakwood University, where I received a scholarship. And I stayed at Oakwood University because the entertainer Michael Jackson had his world tour, and I auditioned to sing for the UNCF, which I was going to be able to sing for him if I won the audition. And so my teacher wanted me to do it because I was taking voice lessons at Oakwood. But I was like, they're not going to pick me. There are other better singers than me. But sure enough, I got picked. So Michael Jackson put me through Oakwood all my 4 years in that UNCF scholarship. And so in that, as a student at Oakwood, there were no Aeolians. The Aeolian director at Oakwood, she had retired, Dr. Alma Blackman. And so my 4 years at Oakwood, we didn't have Aeolians. So that left a void. And so I knew again that I'm on this path here, that I started the Lloyd Mallory Singers, of which Gerald Cunningham sang in, Angelique Clay sang in. And in that, I was arranging things. And so we got opportunities to perform. And then at our homecoming, this particular year was my sophomore year. The dean asked me to put together a male chorus. So I did that. And then I had the Lloyd Mallory Singers. I did that. Then there was some instrumental ensemble they wanted me to help be a part of. So I did that. So it was almost like the Lloyd Mallory show. It was ridiculous, but it was an opportunity to showcase yourself. And so that's when my parents discovered that, hey, he's got talent, because the whole arena, was in an uproar, and you got proud parents. Hi, Mom. I'm glad I know my mom's watching. Thank you, Mom. And with that, I just continued to develop my craft. And when it's time to graduate, I had several opportunities to go here. The Boys Choir of Harlem gave me an offer. I wanted to go to grad school. I wanted to just be a freelance musician, but my father was like, you can't come home, else you're gonna have to pay rent. So you have some other job opportunities. So here's a full circle. Pine Forge made me an offer to come teach there, and they sent a contract, and they sent it, and because my dad and I have the same name, he got the contract. He put it on my dresser, but I refused to sign it because I didn't want to go back to Pine Forge Academy, because I was just fresh out of college. It's like, I don't want to go back up to Pine Forge Academy. But I ended up going back to Pine Forge Academy, and I stayed there 7 years, and I created a music program where they have an honorary diploma. And so we prepare students like they do at these fine art institutions like Duke Ellington and the School for the Arts places, that we were preparing our students the same way so that they could go to wherever they wanted to go. And thus, I've got that experience. But my choirs at Pine Forge Academy, they grew. I had, I guess the student population could have been about 200. Out of 200 at the school, I might have had 120, 130. Eventually, they started putting a cap on me because they were like, you can't have everybody in the choir, but everybody wanted to sing. And I would get in trouble if I didn't take everybody. So I taught everybody how to sing. Even if you couldn't carry a tune, I'm gonna teach you how to sing. It's at Pine Forge Academy that I had Dr. Nathan Carter bring Morgan State to Pine Forge Academy to give a lyceum. And I was told to do that, and I was told to do that because it would be an enriching experience for the students as well as myself. So what I did is I had him come, and I had never heard a choir like this because I didn't get this at Oakwood. So I had never heard Black voices like this raised the roof. It was just 30 singers and they sounded like 100. And I was like, good, good, good. And at that time, Dr. McCorvey, Marquita, who you teach, was an infant. So I had her on my lap, holding Marquita, almost dropping her because I'm in awe of what's happening around me. So Dr. Carter then asked for me to switch and bring my choir up. And I didn't really want to do that, but they were gung-ho. So all 120 of them got up there and we sang for him. And that was a wonderful evening. So fast forward, I go to hear Dr. Carter's choir sing during the summer on the campus, and I want to get my master's. And so I said, Dr. Carter, I don't know if you remember me, but I'm from Pine Forge. So he remembered me, and I said, I really want to start my master's, and I don't know if I'm too late to begin, because I went like in August, late August. So Dr. Carter tells me, he says, look, come back on Wednesday and I'll have you registered. You hear me? You come back on Wednesday and I'll have you registered. So that's what I did. I came back on Wednesday and he had me registered in school. And that's how I began my journey at Morgan State. I studied voice with Elizabeth Ridgway, and then I studied conducting with him. And I did a dual emphasis, a master's recital in voice and a master's recital in conducting. And Dr. Carter was gym. I mean, it just had to absorb all of that. And then his choirs were steadily getting better and better. And we were traveling all over here. I learned more major works under him than anywhere else that I could believe, because we were always singing with some kind of orchestra. And then that's when we discovered I could sing a little. So he had me singing and soloing and this and that. And then that's when they came to Oakwood, because he was like, can you make it happen that we go to Oakwood and give a concert? So at that time we did do that. And I was a graduate student. Janice Chandler was early in her career. And so she soloed. He brought Janice too, because Janice was from Oakwood as well. So we did a concert, I guess, 92 or 93 at Oakwood. And we gave 2 performances there. And that's kind of when that Morgan Oakwood thing not totally began, but we went down there and they were familiar with that. I then finished my master's, but I'm still at Pine Forge Academy. And then I get a call because the choir has sung at homecoming down at Oakwood, and they did such a good job. They are still looking for someone to take the Aeolians that they feel can take the helm of what the past conductor, Ricky Little and Alma Blackman, had done. And so Ricky Little is gone, and I think he's in Kentucky. Dr. Blackman has retired, and she's not coming back. So they kind of asked me, would I be willing to do that? And that's how I got to Oakwood. And so when I got to Oakwood, I gained all the students that had graduated from Pine Forge at Oakwood. And so my first 3 years, I had about 200 in the choir. My voice was constantly fatigued because, you know, with that army of people, you do this, they're not watching because they're looking at music. You got to get a bullhorn and be like, I said, stop, you know, cut, you know, that kind of thing. And so with that, then that's when Dr. Carter began saying, hey, why don't we do some collaborative things? So he had to get a choir to Knoxville to do Porgy and Bess course. And Angelique Clay was singing in that production. And so Dr. Carter was like, I can't afford to bring 80. So you know what to do. I know what to do. I'll bring my best 40. You bring your best 40 and we'll bring them together. And that's the beginning of the Morewood kind of experience that we came together, and from diction to division of parts, just everything, because I was Dr. Carter's protege, you know, so yeah. In that. From there, Dr. Carter would ask me to sub for him, which I'm told that's something he just never did until he felt that I was confident to do so. It was also Dr. Carter and Dr. Carter's wife, who I was studying voice with after I finished my master's, that that told me I should go start my doctorate. And so I started my doctorate while I was at Oakwood at Cincinnati Conservatory of Music. And I went there during the summers. It was in the fall of 1999 that the Aeolians, of which I directed, did a concert out there. And our tour manager that particular time, Dr. Roy Malcolm, invited the chairperson of UCLA. His name is John Robertson. This is another full circle moment because John Robertson he has an album out on Chapel Records, Songs Without Words, playing all of this classical music, Chopin, Brahms, all of that. And my dad used to play him every Saturday before we go to church. So I remember seeing the record and seeing that name. So I did not know John Robertson was coming, but he came to the concert, and at intermission, we're taking an intermission. He is speechless, he says, of what he has heard out of the choir and how we have crossed the genres, and offers me and John started my accompanist full fellowships to come to UCLA to pursue graduate degrees.
Wow.
And so I discontinued my studies at Cincinnati, and then I went to UCLA, where Dr. Robertson was my orchestral mentor, and then I had Donald Newen, who was at the Crystal Cathedral, and also a protege of Robert Shaw. And the body of information, I just feel like God does these full circle moments. I'm an alumnus of Oakwood, go back to Oakwood. Alumnus of Pine Forge Academy, I go back to Pine Forge. And so in that, I was honored to have that opportunity. So I was a teacher associate. I had the younger choir, and that choir flourished. So that's like a superpower for me, big choirs or just getting people to sing. So I did that. I graduated, and then while still at Oakwood, but they had someone else direct the Aeolians while I was away. But then when I came back, that person went away. So that's when I took the Aeolians back, and I had them for 2 more years. And then I got I went another direction, which I won't talk about that right now. But
we can get it.
That's how I got my doctorate out that way. And then another full circle moment is that I went back to Delaware, where my parents were educators, and I got the call to come to Delaware State 3 times. They asked me to come, and something would go awry each time. And the third time I didn't want to do it, but they came correct. So I went to Delaware State, and I did that. And in that, my son is now in college, and he is there, but we want more. And so that's when I wanted him to meet Dr. McCorvey and have an opportunity to have the best pedagogue as well as the best opportunity, because he can do something. And so I didn't get that, and so I wanted to make sure that whatever he can do, he's going to get that opportunity, unlike myself. And so in that, he won the All-Tech competition, which then caused me to move to Kentucky, where I'm now at Kentucky State. And that's an awesome position, awesome tradition. I heard about Kentucky State via Dr. Carter, because Kentucky State would beat Morgan State. And that's how I would have to hear Dr. Carter, belly aching about can't beat that Kentucky State choir. And so in that was my first exposure to Kentucky State. My great grandfather that I told you about was a musician. He was a pastor for the state of Kentucky, and he started a church called Magazine Church in Louisville, Kentucky. So I feel like that's another circle moment that I've done that kind of circle thing. And so that's where I find myself, and that's here what I'm doing right now. Great tradition at Kentucky State University. And I've had a plethora of experiences that I could keep you on here forever and ever, but God is good.
Amen. Yes, he is all the time. All the time. I love learning stuff about folks that I know, like learning new stuff about them. It's just amazing. But I wanted to talk to you each about the spiritual and why you, this question is for all of you, why you feel that it is important that the spiritual remain relevant in our ensembles and choirs and churches today. And so for those of you who are new to Black Opera Live, I have this thing called the receipts. And all of these fantastic conductors have submitted evidence of their excellence in their conducting. So you will be treated to performances from each one of these brilliant pillars of the podium tonight. But I'll start with you, Sean Elise. What is it about the spiritual that you feel is important, and why do you fight so hard to keep it relevant?
Spirituals is the foundation of all African American music. If we didn't have spirituals, we wouldn't have rap. If we didn't have spirituals, we wouldn't have had the blues. So it's important to keep the spirituals alive. We as a people should champion the Negro spirituals and not let them die. It's just as important to us as our history and culture as any other music.
Absolutely.
Every time I would sing a recital, I would end my recitals with spirituals. Anytime I conducted little children, we sang spirituals. If we do not acknowledge the spiritual, we don't acknowledge our history of Black America and where we have come from. So it's important to keep the spiritual alive because it's our heritage.
Yes.
And it's important for young people to understand that as well. I don't have to say too much to my young people. Choir members at Johnson C. Smith University love singing spirituals. They have, Dr. White, can we say, oh wait, can we do something else just for this particular program? No, Dr. White, we have to sing spirituals. We have to. My mother went to Fisk University, and so that's when sang with the Fisk Jubilee Singers, and they were the ones that started touring. And so that came down through the years. And so Kenny, we can't just stop. We have to keep the spiritual alive.
Alive. And
we
with
cannot let it die.
And with that, folks, here's my first receipt that I'm going in my bag to get out with Dr. Sean Elise White conducting the Johnson C. Smith University Choir. And we'll talk a little bit about the piece once it's over. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
See that baby in the lowly manger, he gon' take all my sins away. He gon' break with my God in glory. One of these days. See that baby in the lowly manger, he gon' take all my sins.
Bravissima, Sean Elise. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
Thank
it.
you so much.
And it's
Thank
so
you so
interesting. Everybody knows that was a Stacey Gibbs arrangement. I guess his sound is so unique that you can just recognize it immediately. And I think that that's a sign of a great arranger and composer, that you create your own sound. It's so fantastic.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Waddles, sir, will you tell me, why are the spirituals so important for you and your musical path that you're blazing? Why do you keep them around?
Dr. White already gave a wonderful introduction. If I may just add to that, we talk about spirituals being the foundation of all African American music. I really, especially teaching at a PWI, have to impress upon them that spirituals are the foundation of all American music. It goes from the blues to jazz to rock and roll to country. To everything that we have. And so if there is any great slight in American music education, it is the fact that we have not taken enough time to really involve ourselves in the education about Black music. And there are many reasons for that, which we won't get into tonight, but I'm excited for, and I'm passionate about this music that has really enveloped me since I was young. I'm the youngest one here. But certainly a bit old at heart. I recall one of my first choir communicators at church, getting up and conducting and singing Ain't Got Time to Die, which, mind you, is the composition that is based on a spiritual. But certainly it is, that sound just kind of takes you home. There's really nothing like that sound when it is properly interpreted. And proper interpretation just demands of us education about history and personal human connection. And I think that type of artistry lends itself in all facets. So that's why.
Fantastic. And this receipt and evidence of your brilliance is also an arrangement of yours, correct?
Yes, it is.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it before we hear.
This little light of mine, I arranged while I was at Westminster Choir College. I was so fortunate to conduct the Jubilee Singers, which is, of course, in part inspired by the Fisk Jubilee Singers. That great history of, I guess you should say, concertizing the raw spiritual really starts there in the Reconstruction era. But this particular tune, those melodies are something gorgeous. And I think about when I educate now to find the human in the score. So there's not only the collective whole that we have to experience, that we have to talk about the collective experience, but there had to be some mother or some brother or some uncle or somebody that just decided to moan out, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. So I use a little bit of everything. I call it the gumbo, like my Morehouse brother, PJ Morton, would say, in everything that I grew up with. So, from Detroit contemporary gospel to jazz, to everything, everything that we can, because the spiritual influenced it all. So why don't we use it? So, yeah, so there's that.
Absolutely. Well, sit back and enjoy Dr. Waddles' This Little Light of Mine, conducting his own arrangement. Get into it. Fantastic, my brother. Fantastic. I think everybody got another piece that the choir and ensemble can do. And Brandon, tell everybody how can we get that? How can we get this music?
You can find it on GIA, baby. Go to GIAmusic.com. We're so grateful. I believe that is with the Westminster Choir series, edited by Bill Miller. Thank you.
And if you look below on the ticket tape, everybody, there's his website and his Instagram where you can be in touch and find out everything that he's up to and what he is doing. Thank you, Dr. Waddles. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And we're going to talk about a solo arrangement for me later on. Okay. Just all right. So let me see. Dr. Mallory, tell us why for you is the spiritual still so important and so relevant with not only your students and your singers, but your audiences?
Having sung in the Jubilee Singers of Los Angeles, it gave me a greater appreciation for the spiritual, because these melodies are from our people of great travail, but they're also originated here on this soil. But I also like the spiritual because it gives me an opportunity to create vocal colors. Mm-hmm. I talk to my students all the time about vocal colors. And I even did my dissertation on a study of singing the Negro Spiritual versus contemporary gospel without hurting your voice. And one thing I've discovered that as I was trying to teach a spiritual at UCLA, it's not enough just to get the notes, but if you are a person that is not African-American and you sing opera and you come up with that projection for operatic singing, for that depth of operatic singing, why can we not come up with that same kind of depth and that kind of color for the spiritual? And so I have instilled that in my choirs, as well as being mentored to do that. And so the example that I chose to give is of an alumni group of Aeolians that I had, that 4 of those singers made their Metropolitan debut last year, as well as all of those that are in that group are now professionals as doctors, lawyers, therapists, you name it, they're doing their own thing. So that's what the spiritual means to me. So in my work at Kentucky State, I'm even training them that vocal colors. We want colors, vibrato, no vibrato. We want dynamics and a palette of those. And then the lighter voices, we assign you to do certain things. The smaller voices, you have a place. And in that, everybody has their identity as working as a team. And so I use the spiritual to build vocal colors as well as to build team.
Fantastic. And I'm so glad you shared this with us. Tell us the name of the spiritual and who arranged it.
Didn't It Rain, and the last name is Dillard. I think
gotcha.
My friend Jason will know the first name, but it's a Dillard arrangement.
Somebody in the chat going to tell us. I know.
Dillard.
Hold on to your wigs, folks.
He said Donald Dillard. Yes.
Chillin'. Rain, Lord. Didn't it rain, children? Oh, my Lord, night, one no land, nowhere in sight. Noah sent the raven to bring the news, flapped his wings and away he flew to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south, all day, all night. Oh, tell me, didn't it rain? Didn't it? Didn't it? Didn't it? Well, it rained 40 days and it rained 40 nights. One no land, nowhere in sight. Noah sent the raven to bring the news, flapped his wings and away he flew to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south, all day, all night. Oh, tell me, didn't it rain? Didn't it? Didn't it?
Well, go on and sing, folks. Go on and holler for them. I love it. I love it. Sing, Brandy. I love you, sister. Love, 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 love. That is just so fantastic. So fantastic. Thank you, Lloyd, for sharing that. Thank you, thank you, thank you. My dear Dwala, please tell me why it is so important for you and your incredible students, my nieces and nephews at Winston-Salem State University, to keep the spiritual not only alive, but with the excellence that you pour into it.
This music, combined with the unique African rhythms and harmonies and the Western elements, is actually creating this sound that we call the spiritual. Mm-hmm. And it's the first music native to America. So while we are talking about America's music, it's no way that we cannot talk about and sing the spiritual, because it is the music native to America. It is the first music that was created here in America. So it's just no way to continue to talk about anything else unless you give that credence to the spiritual. I think it is important because even though we've come a long way, we still are experiencing troubles and tribulations and trials, just as our native Americans, of the African Americans here, when they created that music to express their feelings about what was happening.
Yeah.
So we are now living in perilous times, which has called us to be secluded and actually having to sit in it. We're not able to venture out. And sometimes the only thing that we can do is hum and sing. And the spiritual is that music that helps us to be able to articulate exactly how we're feeling. So it creates this discipline with our young people. I often tell them, I say, when you can't do anything else, you can sing.
Amen.
And you have these spirituals that really articulate this to that art form. So spirituals are not just sorrowful songs. I believe everybody can relate to that of the spiritual, because we all have, Black, white, anybody of any color or creed can relate to experiencing some troublesome times. This pandemic that we're living in now knows no color.
Mm-hmm.
It knows no color. And so just like that, we all have been experiencing some things in times that we really have to sit in. And I think the spiritual really is one of those pieces that's going to help all of us, especially our young people, as we are teaching them to understand how to be patient, be still in this, and be patient and understand that there's a higher calling and power that's going to create what we are going to get out of here. But the spiritual is certainly that. It if we don't sing another note, I think that the beauty of the spiritual is that every one of us can relate to them in some kind of way. And the Negro Spiritual cannot not be listed because it is America's music.
Yeah. Fantastic. Now, can you set up this piece for us? Who's the arranger and the title for us?
Again, here we go. Stacy V. Gibbs, a wonderful colleague of mine. And actually, this piece was commissioned by another wonderful colleague, Jason Max Ferdinand, and the Aeolians. And
wow.
It is Rockin' Jerusalem.
Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Sing, nieces and nephews.
Mary, Mary, oh Mary, Martha, oh Mary, Mary, won't you ring garden bells? Mary, Mary, oh Mary, Martha, oh Mary, Mary, won't you ring garden bells? Don't you hear them ringing? Oh, Mary, oh Mary, oh Mary, ring garden bells.
Oh my goodness. Sing, babies. My God. And Stacey Gibbs better write the bells on into the score. Just write them on in. My goodness. Fantastic. So fantastic. Thank you for sharing that with
Thank
us.
you.
Thank you. All the people in the chat are just going crazy.
I have to step in here and say that when I was in high school, that some of the first arrangers of spirituals that I experienced were Stacey Gibbs and Damon Dandridge. And they're both students of Nina Scott. We all came under the same teacher. And so Stacey was writing and arranging things like, oh my gosh, See That Babe and Be Still and Know, all of the highlights that we know now, and Damon Dandridge with so many of his arrangements. So I have to give kudos to them and thank my brothers for inspiring me to write and arrange. So yeah, that was beautiful. Love it.
So beautiful. So beautiful. Dr. McCorvey, will you tell us why the spiritual means so much to you, and particularly the choral spiritual?
Well, I want to say first that I call the spirituals the mother music. In this country, they are the mother music. Without the spirituals, America would not have found its voice as it has. If you think about the American musical sound as we identify now, it started with the spiritual. And so before the spiritual came onto the scene and before the enslaved were brought to this country, the voice in America was more European. And so you had Germans, you had the Italians, you had the French, you had all of the people from other countries coming to America and bringing their music with them. But the spirituals were created here in America. They were created during a very difficult time in our history in America, but they were created here. And so no other country can lay claim to this American music that was born in a difficult part in our life, but now it is part of the American musical repertory. And so I feel that everyone needs to sing spirituals. And from spirituals, you can learn not only beautiful melodies, but you can learn the history of our country through this music. And so as teachers teach this, one of the things that I want them to do is not only just teach the beautiful melodies and the wonderful rhythms, but tell them about the history of the enslaved in this country and how this music was born, so that as we move forward, this music is a part of our heritage. And that's really why I started the American Spiritual Ensemble, because I didn't want this music to be lost. And I'm very happy to say that, a couple of things I wanted to comment on with my colleagues. One was that something is happening now in the NATS organization. For you who don't know about NATS, the National Association of Teachers of Singing. But this summer, I was part of a team that has now created a category for the American Negro Spirituals. And so from now on, all of the students who are competing in NATS will be able to compete in an American Negro Spirituals category. And I am so excited about that, because it's going to not only teach students about the spirituals, but it's going to teach a lot of teachers about the spirituals. I think there's a lot of fear and trepidation about singing spirituals, and among especially white teachers. And so they are, I cannot tell you how many times I have been asked, can we as white people sing this music? And I'm saying, this is American music. You sing German Lieder, you sing Italian arias, why not sing American Negro Spirituals? And so this music is for everyone. So I think that the making it a category in NATS is going to be a big deal, because that way, just about all students compete. If they're in a voice major in college, they compete in that. So I would encourage all of you to compete in the American Negro Spirituals category. And also there's going to be a national category as well. So I encourage you to do that. So I think that this is America's music. And so that's why it's incumbent upon us here on this panel and people who are professional artists and teachers. it's incumbent upon all of us to keep this music alive and make sure that this music is not lost.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I had promised myself, I told my agents, and I told everybody, there will never, ever be an Overton concert or a recital where there's not a spiritual. And the spiritual will be on the printed program, not hidden away in my encores, because we ain't all Leontine Price and get a chance to sing 8 encores. They're gonna be right next to Dvorak and Schubert and Mahler and all the rest. It is so important, and we have a responsibility as artists and performers to celebrate this music. So, Doc, this arrangement of "Did My Lord Deliver Daniel," who's it by?
This arrangement of "Did My Lord Deliver Daniel" is by Robert Jefferson. And Robert Jefferson was one of the soldiers in the United States Soldiers Chorus. I've had a wonderful relationship with the United States Army Field Band and Soldiers Chorus. And I have several students who are also in the Soldiers Chorus. And I've had the great honor of conducting them. And also, we just collaborated on a program this past Sunday. But Robert Jefferson was one of the soldiers, and so he wrote this arrangement, "Did My Lord Deliver Daniel," that we're going to perform. And I might also add that this is part of a larger work that we have put together since the American Spiritual Ensemble could not tour this season because of COVID. We have created a virtual concert. And so all of you who are interested in seeing the American Spiritual Ensemble in a concert, check out the website and you can find information. And but this is part of that concert. Oh, that's right. There it is. This is part of that American Spiritual Ensemble virtual tour concert.
Fantastic. Enjoy.
And the ship began to sail. It landed me over on Canaan shore, and I'll never turn back again. Did my Lord deliver Daniel? Did my Lord deliver Daniel? Why not every man? Did my Lord deliver Daniel?
Wow, wow, wow. That's a hot number.
Thank you.
That's a hot number. And to be able to get all of that sound and nuance and color with mask on, what was that like? What was the rehearsal process like, putting that together with our present situation?
Well, we rehearsed in 45-minute blocks because we had to clear the room. And, so we rehearsed in mask. Everything was in masks, distanced. It was during the Christmas holidays. And so we rehearsed and we were able to record, and we recorded not only in Lexington, but also in New York City. And I'm happy to say that baritone extraordinaire Kenneth Overton is on the recording. And we did that in New York City. And then we also took some archival concerts from both in the United States and in Paris and put all of that together. But, rehearsing behind masks is the reality of where we are now. And I think for all of us, it gives our students the opportunity to be able to make music. And so, this course, American Spiritual Ensemble is a professional group, but it was the same. These professional musicians had the opportunity to make music. And so we just did it in a very socially distanced way. And, and you can sing behind masks, as you can see. So it can work.
Absolutely. Now, all you presenters out there, don't get any ideas, because once we're able to take them off, they're going to stay off and we're going to sing.
Absolutely. And we'll be back out. I can't wait to get back out.
Don't get no ideas. And I'm also going to put here in the chat, everybody, where you can get recordings of the Winston-Salem State University Singing Rams CDs. They have quite the collection. So make sure you support them as well. I put it there in the chat for you. Now, last but not least, Dr. Jason, why is it for you that the spirituals need to stay right up in the front in our musical presentations?
Let's see, why the spiritual? You know what? I'm probably going to take a non-musical approach and let my sociology background shine here for a little bit. So look, the year was what? 1619, when the ship landed in the shores of Virginia, and the ship wasn't carrying food supplies or items for trade or materials to help build the infrastructure of this country. Instead, think about it. Instead, that ship carried a group of Africans, right? And this practice, this importation continued for hundreds of years, right? And it seems like the west coast of Africa was just like fertile ground for the extradition of human beings to this very country. And some authors suggest that as many as 15 million people were transported from Africa to the Americas, whether here in the United States or indentured laborers in the Caribbean and so forth and so on. So every time I see images of that transcontinental journey, I don't know about you all, it brings tears to my eyes. But I'm going somewhere with this. I truly believe, though, that in every bad situation, good, yet even great things can be birthed. And all the slave was separated from his or her home and even from his own family and stripped of all human dignity. Where have we seen that recently? Stripped of all human dignity. Little did we know that he was building the blocks of this very nation. And one of my mentors, someone who baptized me, someone that we all know, Wintley Phipps, coined this quote. What does he say? He says, "It is in the quiet crucible of our private sufferings that God's greatest gifts are born in compensation for what we've been through." And that's exactly where this music kind of came from. And history is teeming with so many inspiring stories where in the midst of tragedy, humanity has always risen to levels of heroism that are simply beyond our day-to-day imagination. And even as we go through this pandemic, we see fear. The slaves went through fear. We see uncertainty. The slaves went through uncertainty. We see anguish. But in the midst of all of that, we see compassion on full display. So why sing the spirituals? We sing the spirituals because for many, it brings a great sense of optimism and a sense of relief. And because music consolidates humanity, it is cause for optimism. So through our programming, we can bring hope to so many people in need. And I truly believe more after this pandemic than probably before, our audiences should be provoked, they should be challenged, and they should leave with a sense of optimism, the type of optimism that the slaves had, that Nelson Mandela had, and Martin Luther King had. And I know for me, I'm trying to no longer just make, just mastering music and showing you musical prowess, but I believe now it's time to couple that mastery. Don't lose that. But we now have to really couple that with a sense of hope. So why sing the spirituals? Because the spirituals bring a sense of hope. It got us from whence we've come, here we are now, and we're hoping to get to the future. So that's why I continue to sing it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Amazing. Now, can you set up this piece for us? What's the title of it and who arranged it?
I almost forgot there for a second. So this piece is by, one of the deans of the genre, William Dawson, who was born in Alabama. We chose this for a specific reason. The title of it is My Lord With a Morning, and he uses the Mourning.
Catch it. Catch. I'm talking to the audience. Catch it. Mourn.
Yeah, as in being very, very sad. But we sang this for the American Choral Directors Association conference, and in our programming, I specifically didn't want to do a Jubilee spiritual. I was trying to counteract that. Some people think that's what all we can do. So on purpose, we programmed this to something we could sing with a great sense of sensibilities. But here's the thing here, and sometimes you use this music to make a point, right? Between 1922 and 1925, William Dawson made Kansas City his home. This is where the ACDA 2019 conference was held. He taught at the Lincoln High School, and while he was teaching at the high school, he also studied theory and composition at an institution which I'm not going to call its name. It had a different name than still exists today, but I'm not going to mention the name. In 1925, he completed his music degree, but catch this, he was not allowed on stage to receive his diploma.
Wow.
So we felt very proud to present his setting on this very stage, which he couldn't receive his diploma, and pay tribute to the Jubilee celebration of the ACDA and the many strides for diversity which have been made throughout the ages. So it was a piece, but it was also a message being sent.
Yeah. Wow. Well, enjoy this. I think I've listened to this about 10 times that your folks sent it over to me. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Outrageous. Outrageously gorgeous.
Thank you so much.
My goodness.
Thank you so
What
much.
beauty and discipline and like every color in the Crayola 64 box you were able to pull out of that is just stunning. Congratulations to you and those incredible musicians.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So fantastic. My goodness. You all have filled my entire soul and being tonight. I wanted to do some fun questions with you before we go. So these, you don't necessarily have to have a lot of thought. Whichever answers come quick to you. And we'll go in the order, ladies first, Sean, Elise, then Dwala, then Lloyd, then Jason, then Everett, then Brandon. Got it? All right. Are you a breakfast, brunch, lunch, dinner, or dessert person?
I am a breakfast, lunch, dinner, dessert.
Pick one, Sean, please.
Okay. Dessert.
Gotcha. Dwala.
Chocolate.
I'm a brunch person.
With mimosas?
No, not with mimosas. It's a special chocolate milk.
Okay. Okay. Lloyd?
Dinner, dessert.
Gotcha. Jason?
Definitely dinner.
Everett?
Breakfast.
Aha. And Brandon?
Dinner.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. You are hosting a dinner party and you can have 4 guests only. Which composers and or conductors, living or deceased, are coming? Sean, Elise, think long, think wrong.
Thanks, Kitty. Hall Johnson. William Dawson. Wendell Whalen. And Miss Dwala Burke.
Oh, okay. Come on now. Dwala, who are your 4 guests?
The initial invitation, I would say, would need to go to Noah Ryder. And another invitation would go to Undine Smith-Moore. And then another invitation certainly would have to go to Ulysses K. And then another invitation would have to go to my papa, daddy, Roland M. Carter.
That's a nice gathering. Lloyd, who's coming to your house?
I want Jester Hairston. I think I want Nathan Carter, Seiji Ozawa,
Wow.
and Leonard Bernstein.
Wow. Okay. I love that. What about you, Jason?
Kenny, this is a totally unfair question. Oh, Jesus. Let's see. All right. Brahms.
Ooh.
Gustavo Dudamel. I want to pick his brain on a ton of things. I'd have to say Dawson as well. And my brother and friend, and he's actually been at my house already, but I'm always inspired talking to Jacob Collier, so that'll be my 4.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
What about you, Doc?
Well, you know, it's so funny that you asked that question because as I was listening to the Aeolians sing, I thought about how much homage we have to pay to people like William Dawson, pave the road for where we are today. And so while I was listening, even before I knew your question, I wrote down 4 composers that I would like to invite to dinner. And I didn't know that's the question you was going to ask, but
wow.
I just wanted to pay homage to William Dawson, to Hall Johnson, to H.T. Burley, and to Jester Harrison.
Wow.
And then I think they would bring a few friends, and one of them would be Giuseppe Verdi, and the other one would be George Shirley.
Fantastic. Oh my goodness. And what about you, Brandon? Who's coming to your house?
I'll tell you, I don't know what my house is going to look like after they finish up, but Miles Davis,
Ooh.
Art Tatum, Lenny Bernstein, and Stephen Sondheim. And I don't even know if I'll have a house when they finished.
I know. I
those
know
are
it.
four of my greatest inspirations. Yep.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, next question. What is a place that you have been that you would love to go back to? And where is the place that you have never been that you really want to go to? Sean, Elise?
Venice, Italy. I would like to return. And I want to do something simple. I just want to go on a cruise.
Okay.
To the Bahamas.
I don't think that's too much to ask for. It shall be done.
Thank you.
Dwala?
I would like to return, and those were some plans recently, but I would love to return to South Africa.
Mm.
And I've never been, but so desire to go to Dubai.
Okay. Lloyd?
I would like to return to Vienna. I love performing in Vienna. And I want to sing in that beautiful concert hall in Australia.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a long flight, but I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Jason?
Oh man, Kenny, these questions are I mean, perhaps one of the most enriching international trips I've had, and I agree with Dwala, definitely South Africa. There's just a vibe and a reverberation there that just fills your soul in a way that no other place does. So South Africa. And where would I like to go to? You know what? Maybe along with Lloyd, I'll pair them. Australia, New Zealand.
Yes, indeed. What about you, Doc?
I think I would like to return to Nantes in France.
In France,
we performed at the Faux Journée Festival, and were you on that trip, Kenny? That's right, because you were performing in.
I was in Copenhagen.
You were in Copenhagen, and we did about 30 concerts in about a week. It was a crazy schedule. But it was an amazing festival, and so that's why I'd like to return. And probably I would like to go, Jason. Maybe I can go with you one day to Trinidad and Tobago.
I
have several students. Another student named Jason Brown from Trinidad and Tobago, and I'd love to go there.
Let's go. Carnival next year. Let's go.
Let's take both groups and do a joint concert.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Now, Brandon, where are you going? You know your passport is already used up. Where have you been, and where you want to go back to?
I must join my dear brother Jason and my dear auntie sister Dwala and say South Africa. It was one of the most beautiful experiences I've ever had in my life. I will say that I've already booked my flight to Cairo, Egypt next month, so that's where I'll be, where I haven't been yet. Amen.
That is beautiful and fantastic. Well, before my last question, I just wanted to publicly thank the six of you for being so great and so kind and so generous with your time. You've been on this interview with me for 2.5 hours. I can't believe it. I just looked down and saw that. But the work you do is essential. We are essential. The spirituals are essential. And what you do for the musicians that you work with and for the communities that you touch are essential. We are just as essential as a cardiologist because we touch people's hearts with what we do. And the music that is in the very soil of this nation deserves its place, and you all treat it with such love and reverence and respect. And I've learned so much from working with all of you, soon to work with you, Jason. I'm just going to claim that. And I will also manifest the idea that all 6 of these folks, we're going to do a Carnegie Hall spirituals concert. We're just going to do it. I don't know how yet, but I'm putting it out there that it's going to happen. Everybody brings their ensemble, and we're going to rock Carnegie Hall and make sure the ancestors are happy. So thank you all for being here. And when the interview is over, don't sign off. I want to say goodbye to you privately. And to the audience, thank you all for rocking with me again. And next week, Monday, February the 8th, I get to interview a woman who I think has one of the most exquisite instruments that I think God ever saw fit to make. And she has quite the story from her mentoring relationship that she had with Leontine Price, to singing leading roles on the Met stage, and to now being a principal member of the Metropolitan Opera Chorus. The great Marvis Martin will be here to be with me, and I am so insanely excited to talk to her. And let me tell you, the clips of music that she has sent me, y'all ain't even ready. So come back next week, February the 8th at 7 p.m. for Marvis Martin. And on February the 15th, this guest is probably the guest that I've gotten the most DMs about. People saying, well, why don't you have this person? Why haven't you had this person? You need to have this person. And I said, well, listen, this person has to first agree and be available to do it. But she has. And on February the 15th, Leona Mitchell will be here with me. And I am just knocked over and excited to welcome her to the Black Opera Live show. So my last question to all of you is, because I know that heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates? Sean, Elise?
A recording of anything that my mother sang as a young singer.
Wow.
Anything.
Dwala?
Repeat that question again.
When you arrive at the pearly gates, what do you want to hear God say?
You done good. You done good.
Yeah.
My good and faithful servant.
Amen. Amen. What about you, Lloyd?
I want him to say, we're going to need you to conduct a rehearsal in the middle of heaven.
Yes. Yes, yeah. Indeed. Yes. Jason?
No, this is now you got me. You took me from unfair question to very, very poignant here. Wow. You know, man, it's just simply that I gave you a certain amount of talents, and you explored and used all of them, and that's what I'm trying to fulfill. So if you could just say well done, I'll be good.
Yeah. What about you, Doc?
Well done, thou good and faithful servant, with the emphasis on servant.
I know that's right. Sit down, servant, I can't sit down.
Amen.
Sit down, servant, I can't. And what about you, Dr. B?
I follow along ditto with what Dr. McCorvey said. Well done. That'll be just fine with me. So sorry. I can't never remember if it's my soul got happy and I can't sit down, or my soul saw heaven and I can't sit down. I remember that the Leontine Price recording of all those spirituals, and I just couldn't tell what she was saying, bless her heart. Somebody tell me, what is it?
Well, I know
my soul got happy.
My soul got happy. And that's the one I know from Florence Quivara's CD.
Ooh, yes,
yes, indeed.
So
brother Joseph Joubert at the piano. We're so grateful for him. Yeah.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. Yes. Amen. Fantastic. Well, thank you all so very much. And to all of you out there, if you have choirs and you are apprehensive about singing spirituals, you can call and hire any one of these 6 folks, and they will come in and do a clinic and teach you how to do it right. Just like we go to our coaches and they help us learn our German diction and French and Italian diction, you can bring in a coach to teach you how to do the spirituals right. And you got 6 people right here that you can call and get that done with, right? And make sure that, you know, all of you church folks, make sure you keep spirituals alive and make sure you keep hymnals alive. Don't just be satisfied with the words on the screen. Make sure you open a book and see the notes, right? And there's some beautiful spiritual melodies in our hymnals as well. So make sure you encourage your church choir directors to infuse spirituals in your morning worship, be it on Saturday or Sunday. And don't be afraid of them, because you've got 6 leaders here who can guide you through the majesty and magic of the spiritual. So with that, I thank you all so much for being with me. God bless you and have a fantastic Black History Month. Ciao.
Thank you.